My boss handed out bonuses like candy that morning. Every team cheered. Every team celebrated. Except mine. Then she looked straight at me and said, "You're lucky I didn't punish you." For a moment, no one moved. My team of 12 froze as if someone had ripped the floor out from under us. We had carried the division through the brutal last quarter, pulled double shifts, covered emergencies, and delivered numbers no other branch in Seattle had come close to. I felt their shock before I saw it, the way shoulders dropped, the way eyes shifted to the floor. Claudia, with her perfect posture and clipped smile, closed the final folder and tapped the table. "Let's not make this dramatic. Other teams simply performed at a higher level," Olivia whispered. "That's not true," but her voice barely carried. Riley leaned forward. "We had the highest completion rate. You said that yourself 2 weeks ago." Claudia waved a hand. "Metrics fluctuate. Perhaps you all misunderstood. It stung, every word, every dismissal. But the sting wasn't new. I had felt it sharpening for a week, ever since I noticed something in the reports that should not have been there. I kept my voice steady. "Are we done here?" Claudia lifted an eyebrow. She expected anger, maybe pleading. What she got instead was calm. "If you have concerns, Jolie, submit them through formal channels." Behind me, Weston muttered, "We don't even know what we did wrong." Claudia's smile tightened. "Consider this an opportunity to reflect." That was enough. I stood smoothing my jacket and walked to the door. My team watched me as if waiting for me to break. Instead, I turned back to them and said, clearly and loudly, "Everyone from my team meeting in my office. Now." Silence rippled across the room. Confusion, curiosity, a hint of hope. Claudia's irritation flickered. She did not like losing control of a moment she thought she owned. I stepped out without another word, my pulse calm, my mind already on what I needed to show them. I had known for a week that something was wrong. Now it was time for them to know it too. My office barely fit 12 people, but they crowded inside anyway, still stunned from what happened in the conference room. Weston shut the door behind him. No one spoke. They were waiting for the speech they expected me to give, the one about staying strong, working harder, proving ourselves next quarter. I didn't give it. Instead, I reached into my drawer and pulled out a thick stack of printed screenshots. "Before we talk about what Claudia said," I began, "I need you all to see something." Riley frowned. "What is that? Another report?" "No," I said, spreading the papers across my desk. "This is our work, or at least, it used to be." Olivia leaned in first. Her breath caught. "These are our metrics, the ones from mid-quarter. They were," I corrected. "Look at the timestamps. Look at the dashboard IDs." Weston went rigid. "These were moved, Jolie. These were reassigned, shifted," I said quietly, "into Claudia's strategic excellence unit." A low, disbelieving murmur rose through the room. Fee shook her head. "But we logged every task, every build, every test. It was our project." "I know," I said, "and I kept copies of everything." I held up a second set of printouts, task logs, system notifications, email chains with Claudia authorizing my team to run the entire initiative. Every line showed our fingerprints. Then another set showed those same fingerprints wiped clean. Riley whispered. "She stole it." Daphne pressed a hand to her mouth. "All those nights we stayed until 10, for nothing." Olivia's voice cracked. I missed my daughter's birthday for that release. Tears slipped down her cheeks. She took it. I wanted to reach for her, but if I did, I might break too. "I did not tell you sooner," I said, "because I needed absolute proof, and because I realized this wasn't the first time. The patterns go back years. She has done this to every high-performing team before us." The room fell silent, heavy, charged, awakening. I gathered the papers back into a single stack. If our work was taken this easily, we need to understand what else Claudia has rewritten. I spread the papers across my desk again, but this time, my hands were steadier. "There's someone I need to bring into this," I told the team, "someone who won't look away." Riley looked doubtful. "Legal, no." Irene Voss. Weston's eyebrows lifted. "The internal auditor. She scares half the building. She scares the right people," I said. The room dimmed around us as memory pressed forward. 1 week earlier, I had met Irene at a tiny cafe near Pike Place, a place where no one from work ever lingered. She walked in exactly on time, hair pulled back, eyes sharp behind thin frames. You said it was urgent, Irene said as she sat. I pushed my laptop toward her. Something's wrong with our metrics. I need a second opinion. She scrolled through the screenshots without a word, not a blink, not a sigh. Just that unnerving calm. After a long moment, she said, I have been tracking anomalies in Claudia's division for over a year. My breath caught. You knew I suspected, she replied. But suspicion is not evidence. What you brought me is evidence. She scrolled again, slower this time. Her posture shifting from detached to razor-focused. This is not clerical error, she said. This is intentional suppression of high performers. I felt the weight of that phrasing settle across the table. What happens next? You need to understand something, she said. Human resources will not protect you. Claudia may retaliate. I straightened. I expected that. Good, Irene said, because the audit will proceed. She closed the laptop and lowered her voice. I have already sent preliminary findings to the board's compensation committee. They opened an internal review this morning. I stared at her, stunned. You moved already. I am done watching good teams be buried, Irene answered. Back in my office, the team absorbed every word. Claudia had no idea what was coming. The team gathered again after lunch, quieter this time, the shock settling into something heavier. I closed the door and told them everything Irene had confirmed. No one interrupted. They stood in a tight circle, shoulders tense. We have an active investigation, I said. But we need to stay silent until Irene moves. Claudia cannot know we're aware. Riley shifted his weight. His eyes flicked toward the floor. Jolie, I need to tell you something. Weston turned to him. What's going on? Riley swallowed hard and pulled out his phone. Claudia emailed me this morning. She said there might be a path for me to move into a senior analyst role. She said it would help if I stepped away from the negativity. The room stiffened. Fee whispered. She's trying to split us. Riley's voice cracked. I didn't reply, I swear, but I panicked. I thought maybe she was right. Maybe I should just keep my head down. I walked toward him slowly. I'm not angry. His eyes widened. You're not? No, I said. This is how exploitation works. It isolates you, makes you believe surviving alone is safer than standing together. Riley's shoulders shook. I'm sorry, I'm with the team, I'm with you. Before I could answer, my laptop chimed. An email from Human Resources flashed across the screen. Subject conduct warning. I opened it. The words hit like a slap. Disruptive communication tone. Lack of professionalism. Concerns regarding team influence. Weston stepped closer. They're coming after you now. I shut the laptop. This is not about me. It never was. I looked around the room, one face at a time. I am not asking you to fight for me. I am asking you to fight for the truth of what you built. Olivia nodded first, then Riley, then the others, one by one, until the room felt solid again. The first blow had landed. Claudia had started her attack. By the next morning, the atmosphere in the Seattle office had changed. Conversations dropped when I passed, and people stared too long before pretending they hadn't. Even Claudia, who normally strutted through the hallway as if the carpet were rolled out for her, kept her gaze fixed on her phone. Weston walked beside me. Everyone knows something's happening. Before I could answer, a notification hit all our screens at once. Mandatory division review. All managers, auditors, and members of the compensation committee required. Fee's face paled. This is it, isn't it? I kept my voice even. Stay focused today. Do not react to anything Claudia says. As we moved toward our desks, Irene appeared from around the corner, her expression tighter than usual. She stepped close enough that only I could hear her. The board will be in that meeting, she said. Your data saved this investigation. Weston exhaled with relief too soon. But, Irene added, Claudia submitted her own report this morning. My stomach dropped. What kind of report? A narrative meant to bury yours. Her voice lowered. Be ready. Inside the meeting room. Rows of senior leaders sat in rigid lines. Claudia stood at the front, already clicking through a slide deck. She began with a polished smile. There have been concerns about productivity overstatements from Jolie Hawthorne's team. I want to clarify the facts, Riley muttered under his breath. Oh no. Claudia clicked again. A spreadsheet filled the screen, showing timelines stretched beyond recognition. As you can see, several deliverables were delayed. These inflated numbers were presented as exceptional performance, but the underlying data tells a different story. I stepped forward. That is not accurate. Claudia didn't turn. Jolie has been disengaged and increasingly divisive. Her negativity has affected morale. A ripple moved through the board members, troubled faces, quiet note-taking. My throat tightened. Claudia hadn't just altered numbers, she had rewritten the entire story. She had made us the villains. The room felt smaller, heavier, closing in as her narrative built momentum. She was winning, at least for the moment. Claudia clicked to another slide, her voice smooth and falsely patient. This is why certain teams require closer oversight. Inflated confidence leads to inflated reports. A few board members nodded. One scribbled something. My team sat in the back row, stunned into silence. I stepped forward. I would like to present supplemental documentation. Claudia's head snapped toward me. This is highly irregular. Julian Mercer, one of the board members, motioned with his hand. Let her speak. I opened my laptop, connected the cable, and waited as the screen mirrored behind Claudia. The moment the first image appeared, the room stilled. Side-by-side comparisons filled the projector on the left. Claudia's manipulated numbers. On the right, my archived originals. Every discrepancy was sharp, undeniable. Redacted lines where our team's names had been removed. Delivery dates extended by weeks. Entire task logs replaced. I advanced to the next slide. Here are the timestamp logs showing when the changes occurred. These are system-tracked edits tied to Claudia's administrator credentials. A murmur spread through the room. Claudia's voice rose. These files are fabricated. They are not, I said calmly, because I was not the only one who saved backups. I nodded toward the back row. Each of my 12 team members archived their own work independently before our access was cut last week. Their versions match mine line for line. Gasps broke across the room. One of the board members leaned in to see the timestamps more clearly. Irene stood, her voice carrying with precise control. These alterations violate federal accounting integrity standards. This is not a misunderstanding. This is misconduct. Claudia's face drained of color, her hands tightening around the edge of the table. I closed the laptop gently. The board no longer looked troubled. They looked alarmed. The entire room felt as though it had shifted onto a new axis. Claudia's story had collapsed. Now the real one was unfolding, and it reached far beyond her. The moment the projector went dark, the board shifted into a mode I had never seen before. Julian Mercer turned to human resources first. We need clarification on prior complaints. Were any concerns about Claudia's conduct reported? The HR director stiffened. There were comments, nothing formal. Irene stepped forward. I reviewed those comments. Several employees noted discrepancies and retaliation patterns. They were dismissed without follow-up. The director's face reddened. We followed protocol. Julian did not look convinced. Your protocol seems inadequate. He turned to finance. Explain the manual adjustments. A finance manager cleared his throat. The adjustments began 6 months ago. All originated under Claudia's administrator access. We assumed she had approval. Assumed, Irene repeated. There was no approval from audit, no documentation, and no cross-verification. Another silence, a dangerous one. A senior vice president finally stood. I authorized the bonus redirection. Claudia told me it was necessary to maintain morale balance across the branch. Weston whispered behind me. Morale balance, we were punished because we performed. Claudia suddenly slammed her palm on the table. This is a setup. Jolie brought doctored files. She has wanted my position for months. I faced her. I wanted my team's work to be acknowledged. Nothing more. She pointed a shaking finger at me. You are manipulating. Julian raised his voice. Enough. His tone echoed across the room. You are to step away from this table immediately. 2 compliance officers approached her. Claudia backed up, shock breaking through her polished facade. You cannot escort me out. I am still a regional leader. Not today, Julian said. You are relieved of your management privileges pending full investigation. Then came the announcement that pulled the air from the room. All of Claudia's access across the Seattle region is suspended. Effective immediately. My team stood behind me, silent but steady. The hierarchy that had smothered us was cracking open. The fallout came faster than anyone expected. By the end of the week, finance released a notice that bonuses across 5 teams were being recalculated. Confusion rippled through the office until the updated numbers appeared, and my team received what they had earned months ago, retroactive compensation that reflected every late night and lost weekend. Faye stared at the email, I never thought we'd see this. Riley laughed once, shaky but real. I forgot what it felt like to be treated fairly. Human Resources was less celebratory. Their leadership team was placed under internal review for dismissing earlier warning signs. 2 managers from other departments resigned before the board could question them. The entire building felt as if someone had torn down a wall and let the truth in. On Friday morning, I received a private invite from the board. Julian met me in a small conference room, Irene at his side. "We want you to lead performance integrity initiatives for the Seattle division," he said. "Your work exposed a systemic problem, and we believe you can help rebuild." It should have thrilled me. Instead, I felt the weight of it pressing down. "I appreciate the offer," I said carefully, "but I will not accept unless my team can move into roles where their voices cannot be buried again." Julian nodded, approved. "Every one of them." The answer came so quickly it startled me. Later that night, we met at a diner near Lake Union, one of those places with mismatched mugs and a server who knew half the customers by name. Weston raised his glass. "To getting through what we should never have had to face," Olivia added. "To standing up together." We clinked glasses, not in triumph, but in relief. The storm had passed, but the rebuilding was only beginning, and I still had to decide whether this place could ever feel safe again. Stepping into my new role felt nothing like victory. It felt like responsibility, heavy, necessary, and long overdue. The first week, I met with Irene and the systems team to rebuild the heart of how our division measured performance. "We need something no manager can manipulate," Irene said, so we created it together, an audit-proof KPI system with immutable logging. Every task, every timestamp, every attribution locked the moment it was completed. No more quiet edits in the middle of the night. Next came transparency. I worked with finance to design a bonus calculation dashboard visible to every team. Numbers that once lived in shadows now lived in plain view. The first time employees logged in and saw their real contributions displayed without filters. The entire floor buzzed with an energy I had not heard in years. We introduced mandatory ethics training for all managers. Some resisted, most complied. A few left, and the office grew quieter, clearer. Quarterly employee feedback flowed straight to the board, bypassing anyone who might bury it. The change was not immediate, but it was undeniable. People spoke up more. Ideas resurfaced from employees who used to shrink in meetings. Managers stopped weaponizing discretionary bonuses because discretion had finally been replaced with accountability. One morning, Julian called me into his office. Irene was already there. "We have one last update," he said gently. "The regulatory review concluded. Claudia has been placed on a 3-year industry-wide management blacklisting for ethical misconduct and data tampering." For a moment, no one spoke. "She is not barred from working," Irene added, "but she cannot hold authority over any team." A consequence rooted in truth, not spite, protecting others without destroying her life. I walked out of Julian's office feeling something unfamiliar, quiet closure. I had rebuilt the system that once broke us, piece by piece. But rebuilding the system did not answer the question rising inside me, one I could no longer ignore. A full year passed before I let myself believe the division had truly changed, not because of the new systems or the new policies, but because the people moved differently now. They walked without bracing. They spoke without checking who might be listening. I was reviewing quarterly reports when my phone rang. Irene's name appeared on the screen. Her voice came through steady, almost amused. "Check your inbox." I opened my laptop. A single email from headquarters waited at the top. Subject: National Recognition Announcement. I clicked. The letter congratulated the Seattle branch for becoming the company's national model for ethical performance culture. It cited lowered turnover, increased transparency, and significant growth in innovation metrics since the reforms began. All validated, all measured, all real. I exhaled slowly, letting the words settle. But then I reached the final paragraph. Headquarters formally requested that I travel to 3 additional United States cities to implement the same framework. They wanted the audit-proof systems, the transparency model, the ethical training, all of it replicated, not as a pilot, as a blueprint. I stared at the screen until Irene spoke again. "You did this." "No," I said softly. "We did." She paused. "You're allowed to take the credit sometimes." I laughed under my breath. "Maybe." When the call ended, I walked to the window. Seattle stretched out beneath me, the skyline sharp and familiar. A year ago, I had walked into a conference room believing my career might be destroyed. I remembered Claudia's voice telling me I was lucky she had not punished me, lucky. If she had known what that moment would become for me, for my team, for the entire division, she might have chosen her words differently. Weston knocked gently on my door. "Everything okay?" "Better than okay," I said. I turned back to the window, feeling something settle inside me, not triumph, not revenge, but the steady relief of knowing the truth had become stronger than fear. Excellence should never need armor. Excellence shouldn't need protection, I murmured. It should inspire it.